You know those people who look at a full closet and feel suffocated? The ones who get genuinely anxious walking through a home goods, who look at decorative throw pillows like they're existential threats, who can't relax in a room until half the furniture is gone. They're not just picky. They're not just trendy. They're running from something most people don't even know is chasing them. Minimalism isn't an aesthetic choice for these people. It's a psychological survival strategy. And if you've ever felt that desperate need to strip your life down to the studs, to delete, donate, and disappear into simplicity, there's a reason for that, a deep one. And it's probably not what you think. Because here's the thing about people drawn to minimalism. They're not actually obsessed with having less. They're obsessed with having control. And there's a massive difference. Most people see a minimalist space and think clean, calm, Pinterest-worthy. But what they don't see is the person who created it, who needed that space to feel like they could breathe, who needed every surface clear because their mind never is, who needed the external world to be simple because the internal one is anything but. Minimalists aren't running toward emptiness. They're running from overwhelm. And that overwhelm usually started long before they ever discovered Marie Kondo. Psychologically, minimalism attracts people with what researchers call high sensitivity to stimulation. These are the people whose nervous systems are set to maximum input at all times. They notice everything. The clutter on the counter, the tags on their shirts, the emotional temperature of a room the second they walk in. And all of that noticing is exhausting. Dr. Elaine Aron's research on highly sensitive people shows that about 20% of the population processes sensory and emotional information more deeply than others. They don't just see a messy room, they feel it, physically, like their brain is trying to organize every single object in real time, cataloging, categorizing, calculating the weight of it all. And when you're wired like that, minimalism isn't a lifestyle choice, it's self-defense. But it goes deeper than sensitivity, because minimalism also attracts people who've experienced chaos they couldn't control, unpredictable childhoods, unstable homes, emotional volatility they had to navigate without a map. And when you grow up in chaos, you become obsessed with order, not because you're controlling, because you're still trying to feel safe. There's this idea in psychology called environmental mastery, one of the pillars of well-being, according to Carol Reif's research. It's the feeling that you can shape your surroundings, that you have agency over your space and your life. And for people who never had that growing up, minimalism becomes a way to finally build it. Every item they remove is a decision they get to make. Every clear surface is proof that they're in charge now. It's not about the stuff, it's about the fact that they finally get to decide. And then there's the performance anxiety piece. Because let's be honest, some people are drawn to minimalism because they're terrified of being judged. They've internalized this idea that having too much means you're shallow, materialistic, wasteful, that the right way to live is to want less, need less, be less. And so they pare down not because it feels good, but because it feels virtuous, like they're winning at life by losing their possessions. That's where minimalism can twist into something darker, where it stops being about peace and starts being about punishment, where you're not decluttering, you're depriving, where every item you own has to justify its existence like it's on trial, and you become the judge, jury, and executioner of your own belongings over and over in an endless loop of proving you're good enough by having little enough. That's not freedom, that's just a different kind of prison. But here's where it gets interesting, because for a lot of people, minimalism is actually a response to existential anxiety, the kind that asks, what's the point of all this? Why do we accumulate? Why do we care? What does any of it mean?
And minimalism offers an answer. It says meaning isn't in the stuff, it's in the space, it's in the clarity. It's in knowing exactly what matters because you've removed everything that doesn't. It's a way of cutting through the noise of consumer culture and saying, actually, I don't need to buy my way into significance. Terror management theory suggests that people cope with the anxiety of mortality by either investing in cultural worldviews or by creating meaning through self-expression. And minimalism does both. It's a worldview that says less is more, and it's self-expression that says this is who I am, intentional, mindful, free. It's a rebellion disguised as restraint. And in relationships, this plays out in fascinating ways. Minimalists often struggle with people who collect, who hoard, who can't let go. Because to a minimalist, holding on to things feels like holding on to the past, like you're dragging dead weight into the future. And they want to move light. They want to move fast. They want nothing tying them down, physically or emotionally. Which means they're often the ones ending relationships that aren't serving them anymore, the ones who can walk away clean, the ones who declutter people the same way they declutter closets. And it looks like strength, but sometimes it's just avoidance. Sometimes it's easier to leave than to deal with the mess. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Minimalism can be a beautiful practice of intentionality, or it can be an elaborate way of running from intimacy, complexity, and the unavoidable messiness of being human. And the difference between those two things is whether you're creating space for something or just creating distance from everything. The healthiest minimalists know this. They know that minimalism isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's not about having nothing. It's about having exactly what you need to feel like yourself. And they've done the internal work to know the difference between simplifying and escaping. They've asked themselves the hard question, am I removing clutter or am I removing connection? Am I creating peace or am I creating isolation? Am I building a life or am I just building a shell? And those are the minimalists who inspire people, not because their homes look good, but because their lives feel good. Because they've figured out that the point isn't to own less, it's to be more. So if you're someone who's drawn to minimalism, ask yourself why. Not in a judgmental way, in a curious way. What are you making space for? What are you running from? What does emptiness give you that fullness couldn't? Because the answer to that will tell you whether minimalism is serving you or whether you're serving it. And if this hit home, if you felt that little sting of recognition, drop a comment. Tell me what minimalism means to you. Tell me what you're trying to control. Or just tell me I'm wrong. I love that too. And if you want more psychology that actually gets it, that doesn't talk down to you, that treats you like the complex, contradictory person you are, subscribe, because we're just getting started. Minimalism isn't the enemy, but neither is the mess. The goal is knowing which one you actually need.